Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Empower Your Empathic Psychic Potential. Connect with your clairs, angelic allies, and the wisdom of your sensitivity to guide your destiny. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm delighted to be on an exploration around empathic sensitivity and how it can really be a portal into great gifts for yourself, for the world. Many people who are more sensitive often struggle with some of these sensitivities, but they're actually all divine blessings if you hold them in the right way and work with them in the right way. So we're going to get to explore how to do that with a real pioneer in this field. Her name is Tanya Carroll Richardson. She's an author and intuitive and really is going to help chart a pathway to turning these different areas of potentiality and empathy into your greatest gifts. So Tanya, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Great. And we're super excited to be here. And we're going to get as much from this hour together as we can. And I also want to share with everybody that we do have a brand new program with Tanya called the Empath's Guide to Psychic Development that we'll be excited to share about more towards the end of the hour if you want to go further. So, Tanya, I'd love for you to begin our time together with a little bit about your journey as an empathic psychic and what really sort of turns what might have been, challenging sensitivities early into something of great blessing and potential.
Yeah, thank you for getting this all kicked off. I'm so happy to be here, so excited to talk about this subject. Really, my psychic intuitive abilities blossomed in my late 20s during something called a sensitivity growth spurt. So that is a term I coined to describe when a new psychic pathway opens up for you, or one that's already open and active becomes stronger, becomes bigger and more powerful. So the main internal four psychic intuitive pathways, just so we all know what they are, we ground ourselves in that. The first one is clairaudience. That is where you hear a gentle voice in your mind giving you intuitive guidance. Then you have clairvoyance. That is where you see mental images, primarily in your mind's eye, that give you intuitive guidance. And you can see those images when your physical eyes are open or closed. So those clairvoyant images appear in your mind's eye. Then you've got claircognizance. That is the intellectual psychic pathway. That's where you get those brilliant breakthrough thoughts and epiphanies and brilliant ideas that come fully formed out of nowhere and kind of catch your logical brain's blind spot. And then you have clairsentience. This is the feeling psychic intuitive pathway where you can feel and sense energy, emotions, and even physical stimuli around you in your own system as if you were experiencing it. So clairsentience, that psychic intuitive pathway is one that all empaths and sensitive people are naturally strong in. So when I was in my late 20s, I had as a child and a teen, I'd had the odd experience of really profound intuitive hits or a few clairvoyant experiences where I had those images and a few claircognizance premonitions about big things that were going to happen in my life or to my parents, but it was really a rare kind of isolated, not consistent occurrence. And then in my late 20s, I'm 51 now, so that was a long time ago. In my late 20s, clairaudience opened up for me. And that's again where you hear that gentle voice in your mind giving you intuitive guidance and it's saying really profound things and really accurate, factually accurate things about other people you wouldn't have known otherwise. And clairaudience, that voice, it doesn't sound like your own internal voice, your own inner critic or your inner dialogue or your worry thoughts. It really sounds like someone speaking directly into your mind. And when it happens, you're kind of like, oh, that wasn't me, that was someone else. And that voice is always gentle, it's calm, it's grounded, it's consistent. And it only tells you what you need to know. It's very precise and succinct and very to the point. The other psychic pathway that opened up for me really strongly in my late 20s was the clairsentience that all the sensitive and empathic people who've tuned in today are very familiar with, where you're sensing energy and emotions, the external energy and emotions of other people in your own system as if they were your own. So those opened up for me. I also kind of realized I've always had claircognizance. I just didn't know what it was until I started reading up on intuition. And that's something I did. I began really intensely studying it once these psychic pathways opened because I needed to understand what was happening to me. So I did that, learned about that. And then in my mid 30s, clairvoyance opened up as well, where I began to really consistently see those great mental images that give you profound guidance of mental images in your mind's eye. So by the time I was in my late 30s, I started to get intuitive information, psychic information, not just about myself and my friends and family, but just strangers. I'd be reading through the news and I'd start to get information about this world leader or this celebrity. And I thought, what is this? I didn't even ask for this. So at that point, I'd spent my whole 30s kind of studying intuition to understand what was going on with me. And then I decided, I'm going to start giving readings to people. I'm going to start giving intuitive psychic readings. So over my 40s, and I'm still doing it at 51, I've given thousands of psychic readings to people all over the world from all walks of life. I've written 10 books. I just am finishing up my 10th book now on spirituality and intuition. And then I had another kind of destiny moment happen to me. So you could say it was a destiny moment in my late 20s when my intuition blossomed and I had that big growth spurt. And these intuitive sensitivity growth spurts, think of them like how children will have a physical growth spurt. You'll remember as a child that you can grow 2 sizes in shoes over the course of the summer, or suddenly you need pants that are twice as long because you've gotten so tall. So your intuition, your sensitivity can really blossom and open up dramatically really quickly. So that happened to me in my late 20s, and it can happen organically because it's a moment in your soul's timeline and your destiny that it needs to happen. That's what happened to me. Didn't do anything special, just happened. It can also happen because you're studying intuition. You're reading about it. Maybe you got a divination deck, like an oracle or tarot card deck, and you start playing around with it. So that begins to open it up. You can also have a sensitivity growth spurt just through proximity. So maybe you have a couple new sensitive friends and you can talk about sensitivity and validate intuition with each other and kind of share best practices. That can create a sensitivity growth spurt and really suddenly expand your intuitive system. If you're taking a course, like how the courses the Shift offers, just being in an online community of other sensitives could create this sensitivity growth spurt. So once I was in my 40s, I did all these intuitive readings. I wrote all these books. Then I got the opportunity out of the blue. Simon and Schuster creative director contacted me, destiny moment, and asked if I wanted to create a series of oracle decks with their imprint. And the first oracle deck I created, I have 3. The first one is called Awakening Intuition. So of course I poured myself into that project and everything that I'd learned through those thousands of intuitive readings and everything I'd learned on my own and everything I'd written in the books, I just wanted to pour into this deck. But I really released it, realizing that the divination deck space is very crowded now. Thank goodness. There's so many fantastic oracle decks and tarot decks out on the market. So I did it and I thought, great, I've done it. I'll put it out there. We'll see if it sells. Well, it just sold like wildfire. And I couldn't quite figure out why. I did, it was just like, wow, what's going on here? The company isn't buying ads for it. I don't have a million social followers, Carly Simon or J Lo, nobody is doing, is getting on board with this and promoting this. How is this happening? So I got quiet. I got into my intuition and I said, why is this deck selling like wildfire? It sold out so quickly. It was out of print for 4 months because the publisher was just like, I don't know why this is selling so well. So when I asked my intuition, I heard that there was a group of souls, a group of mystics on the other side who've lived just human lives like we have. So those are called spirit guides. There are people who were incarnated as a human, then they pass over to the other side. There was this group of mystical souls that realized this is a really healing time in history for sensitive people. So, one thing that you'll hear a lot right now is what a difficult time this is in the world. And you don't need me to tell you that that's true. There is so much uncertainty, there's a lot of chaos, and unfortunately, there's a lot of widespread suffering. So, you might just notice this in the collective. You might notice it with friends and family members. You might be feeling it in your own personal life. At the same time that that is happening, there's also this huge healing portal happening where sensitive people, more than ever before, have more tools and support to help them open up all their intuitive psychic pathways. Never before have you had so much information and support to help you do that. Never before have you had so much freedom to do that. So if you're someone that feels like you have past life yourselves and yourself, and maybe you've lived a dozen times before as a human, nothing close to what you're experiencing in this lifetime, to have access to this much support and grace and freedom and information to open up all these abilities. So I think that that's why that deck got so popular, because there literally is a group of souls that didn't have that opportunity in the past, is so grateful that you do, and they're pushing this information out in a big way.
Nothing like having a PR team on the other side for your work. Well, that's a great overview. I particularly of all the different clairs, and I like the idea of the sensitivity growth spurt. When we have a physical growth spurt, it's often implied there's some discomfort that comes with that in terms of like, stretching your bones. And so I wonder if you want to share a little bit about, some of the pain points and challenges that come up when you're undergoing one of these sensitivity growth spurts.
Yes, thank you. Just like a physical growth spurt, it is an awkward thing when your sensitivity suddenly grows, your intuition, your psychic ability and capacity grows so quickly, so to such a degree. So there are a few things that you can do to support yourself if you're having this happen now, or if this happens anytime in the near future. One important thing to remember about your intuitive system is it's not static. It's not meant to stay the same. It's meant to grow and evolve. So when this happens, there's nothing wrong. It's not a red flag. This is a good thing, and you're meant to lean into it. However, it could take a few months or even maybe a little bit longer to get used to this. You need to give it just time for your system to kind of integrate this and settle in. That's just like getting used to walking around with those feet that are so much bigger than they used to be. Another thing that you can do is you need to really support the physical body. So this is the conduit through which all of those internal four clairs, this is where it all runs through. So whatever you normally do to support your physical body, getting rest, gentle exercise, a nice balance of work and play time. For me, when I went through my initial sensitivity growth spurt in my late 20s, I really had to increase my self-care kind of exponentially. I had to really get healthier on my diet. I had to get my supplements tuned in to make sure I was getting all my vitamins and minerals. So if you're someone that takes medication or something like that, you just want to take all the things support your body, whatever medications, supplements, the healthy diet that works for you. You really need to stick on that. Another thing you can do to support yourself during a sensitivity growth spurt is give yourself some space and room, because just initially, especially for the first few weeks, this will feel overwhelming, a little bit, until you integrate this. And I always say it's like riding a bicycle. When you first get on a bicycle, it's so awkward, and you're thinking as a kid, how in the world this thing is supposed to stand like this and I'm just going to go? This doesn't make any sense. In time, once you get used to riding the bicycle, you jump on the bicycle and you just take off, and it becomes a natural thing you don't even think about. So those psychic clairs will integrate into your system, and it will be natural in a flow state, and you won't even think about it like riding a bicycle. Until that happens, just give yourself a little generosity and space, and don't overschedule yourself socially, work. Give yourself a little bit of downtime and breathing room.
Hmm. Good words of advice there. I wonder about the overall climate too, since obviously when you have a sensitivity, you're becoming more sensitive, and a lot of people do feel overwhelmed by what's happening in the collective night right now, whether that's suffering or polarization. Do you feel like that's important to kind of give yourself a cocoon from that for a period of time as well?
Yeah, I like that you use the word cocoon because that's a word I love to use. And it's a word I use when a sensitive person is overstimulated or overwhelmed. So, one thing about sensitive people, I always say they are hyper perceptive, meaning most people who are not as sensitive as you are not picking up as much on externals. Okay. But as a sensitive person, you're picking up more on the energy, emotions, and even physical stimuli around you. You're feeling it in your own system. So when you realize you are overwhelmed or overstimulated, there's so many answers to this great question. But one thing you can do is temporarily cocoon yourself, meaning I realize I'm really overstimulated. Could be from good things. Maybe you had a great week at work and you were just out doing all the things and making it happen and having all the meetings. And you get to the weekend and realize, like, that was all good stuff, but I am really frazzled. My mind is racing. I'm having trouble staying grounded and centered. My emotions are kind of keyed up. You need to cocoon that weekend, meaning this is a weekend to putter around the house. It's a weekend to read a good novel. It's a weekend to sit in nature and chill a bit more. If I'm going to do activities with other people, let's do really, really chill activities. Like, let's all do a puzzle together. Let's all have a family movie night, that kind of thing. And then once your system feels more grounded and more centered, and you're not so overwhelmed and overstimulated, you can step out of that cocoon again.
That makes a lot of sense. What else do you think is important to really optimize these surges of change for longer term spiritual transformation?
I think to just accept it. And that's one part of this healing moment in history. I would imagine, and in the past, let's say 50, 100 years ago, when this kind of thing happened, it was only the really legendary mystics that this was thought to happen to, right? The saints, the mystics, Joan of Arc, only these people heard voices. And so it could be that it would be something that I would imagine in the more recent past, someone would reject and think this means that there's something wrong with me, or this is too much, this is bad. I'm going to try and block out this, I'm going to numb out to it, I'm going to ignore it. So I think in this day and age where there's this healing portal and there's more than ever, this is more normalized, it's more validated in our culture, it's more seen, it's something to lean into. And even if you're thinking to yourself, well, Tanya, what if I opened up my clairaudience and this is something I wouldn't feel comfortable telling my mother-in-law about. I wouldn't feel comfortable telling my boss about. It's you can keep your healthy boundaries that make sense to you. You don't have to share your sensitivity or your psychic ability with anyone you don't want to. But in this day and age, there are so many communities, so much information, so many places like right here where it's validated, it's normalized. You can always come back here as a safe place that this is normal, this is okay. And in my own private way, with whatever healthy boundaries I need, I can lean into this. And I would imagine 100 years ago, I don't know that many people would have ever felt comfortable leaning into it. And then if you don't lean into it, it will shrink and pull back again. Because intuition is just, not to get too pedantic, but it's just like any other skill. It's
Mhm.
like being a carpenter. If you want it to grow and expand and you want to become masterful at interacting with psychic phenomena like angels and opening your four clairs, you need to be actively welcoming it and working with it every day, just like a carpenter improves by making shelves and bookcases every day. That's how you do it.
It's a great metaphor. Well, let's go a little further into that, mentioning angels and other guides on the other side. So you've got the four clairs, and how do you then optimize those in relationship to other beings that might want to be of assistance on the other side?
Yeah, I think the important thing to say is that, and this is another thing about this healing moment in history that I keep going back to. I think in the past, we were often conditioned to believe that we need to go through someone else to get to God, or through someone else to get to the goddess or angels or whatever resonates with you and your in your authentic spirituality. So you don't need anything. You don't need a person. You don't need the perfect crystal. You don't need the perfect mantra. You don't need to be wearing colored glasses. If those things in a ritualistic way help you get into that liminal space where you can connect, then use them. If lighting a candle helps, do it. You don't really need any of that. You, as a powerful spiritual being, have a right to reach out and be answered and get help. Now, what's interesting about intuition and connecting with the other side is one thing that happens with intuition when you're learning to tune in more masterfully to it is you learn how to get into a receptive state. That just involves two things. It involves quieting your mind, so letting go of all of those, worry thoughts and fantasy thoughts and to-do list thoughts that are always churning around. Quiet your mind, get some more open space, fewer thoughts, more space between your thoughts. That's number one. Second of all, you just have to be open emotionally, energetically to whatever your intuition wants to tell you. Not judge it, not question it, not pick it apart. You just have to be open to whatever comes in. And now moving on to working with psychic phenomena, one spiritual truth of that is that whatever you connect to most on the other side, let's say it's angels, you begin to build up a psychic channel to do that. So you begin to build up this really strong channel where you can really easily slip in and do that. And you can do it right now. It's not that you need to work at this for months and years. You can do it right away. But you'll notice the more you start to connect to something, whether it's loved ones who've passed over or angels, you'll notice this channel forms, and you're able to slip in and do that very, very easily and receive guidance and synchronicities easily. Back to that receptive state you need for intuition, where you're quieting your mind and you're being open to whatever your intuition wants to tell you. That is also a pathway you create over and over through practice. It's creating a new neural pathway where you can quickly, at the snap of your fingers, slip into that place where your mind is completely quiet and you are completely open. That's a state I get into before every psychic reading, and I can slip into it in a second because I have a strong neural pathway and my brain knows how to do it.
I know we're going to do an experiential here shortly that also involves connecting with Archangel Raphael, and I want to just ask you for what do you find it's the best things or most important things to turn to angelic guidance versus other discarnate spirits?
That great question. I think angels are for everything. That should almost be a t-shirt I make. But really, and just for a moment to talk about angels in a general sense, they work with everyone. So they're non-denominational. Angels are there for you no matter what your cultural background, what your spiritual background, what your beliefs are. They're like an add-on to a great salad at your favorite salad place. You can put a scoop of angels on anything. They love to support people. You have so many angels already on your team, whether you're aware of it or not. You've got guardian angels and a host of other types of angels. So angels you can really go to for anything, I guess would be my answer to that question. And you also don't have to identify one angel. One thing I always talk about in my work is you have what I call a spiritual guidance squad. So that is your own team on the other side, where Stephen was talking about having a PR team. You have a spiritual guidance squad that's made up of ancestors, loved ones who've passed over, angels, ascended masters, perhaps, spirit guides, lots of different benevolent spiritual beings that want to help you. So one thing that I will tell clients is, yes, you can isolate one entity, one benevolent entity you want to speak to, like Archangel Raphael, as we'll do in a moment, or you can just throw it up to your spiritual guidance squad. They know who they are, and say your prayer or set your intention that way. And they work in concert. They work as a team.
So they all have their own discernment. You don't necessarily have to figure it all out on this side.
Yeah, I like that you said that, Stephen, because that's one thing I always try and really emphasize in my work. Let's not make this complicated. I think you can make it overcomplicated about how to tune into your intuition or how to pray or who I'm praying to. You definitely want to create a safe place. and feel protected by spirit. And all you need to do that is make the wish or intention or prayer from your heart and shoot it up to the angels or your spiritual guidance squad. Again, the more you do that, you're creating that strong channel to do it easily.
Mm-hmm. It was great context, and you're really so articulate about all these distinctions. So, Tanya, let's dive into the practice, the discern portals of destiny, which I love the title of.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say just really quickly is destiny, I think, is much like a GPS system in your car. So you're always being rerouted to your destiny, no matter which choices you make or what you say yes or no to. It's almost as if there is kind of a highway of certain things that you're destined to do. And that highway is always available for you. You could take this ramp onto the highway, this person, this opportunity, or you might pass that ramp and say, I don't want to go onto the highway now, or I don't like that. There'll be another ramp onto the highway constantly. So I also like to emphasize with destiny, don't get too precious about it or feel like you're doing things, that was the one choice that messed everything up, or that was the one person that got away. You're going to constantly be given chances to live your destiny and partner with people and companies and family members, that those on ramps to that highway for you. No matter what it is, maybe you have an addiction that you're trying to heal. You will constantly be given those on ramps onto that highway of recovery. So I just want people to feel like there's a lot of options and a lot of grace within your destiny, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like the fluidity there.
Yeah,
So let's
not, I
dive
always
in.
say destiny's not fixed, it's fluid.
Great. Well, let's do the practice you want to guide.
Sure. So this is where we are going to look at something that's going on in your destiny right now. So one thing that you can do as we're getting started for this guided meditation, and this is before we'll get into the meditation, I want you to identify something that feels important in your destiny right now. This could be a person, it could be a place, it could be an opportunity, could be a decision you need to make, could be a situation you're dealing with, could be a real challenge you're going through right now. I want you to pick one thing to focus in on. So, what we're going to do in the guided meditation is practice intuitive focus. So, intuitive focus is different than when you're cramming for an exam, that kind of really intense focus. Intuitive focus is where you're doing a soft, gentle focus and you're letting everything except what you are focusing on move away. So, everything else, those worry thoughts, those fantasies, those to do lists, any other issues in your life, you're letting all of that fall away from your mental landscape, just like leaves would fall off a colorful autumn tree. Just let it all fall away. So pick your one thing that you want to focus on, and we're going to focus gently and softly on it. But once we start the guided meditation and focus on it, it will be the entirety of our focus. Nothing else will enter our mind, and we're going to stick with it the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get ready for the guided meditation. If you need a sip of water, if you need, whatever would help you, if you have a favorite crystal and you want to hold it, whatever helps you get in the zone. And you can keep your eyes open or closed for this. If physical stimuli is distracting for you, you could close your eyes, or you can try it with your eyes open. So we're going to now let all of our thoughts that don't have anything to do with this one topic we're intuitively focusing on, we're going to let all of those thoughts fall away. Take a few deep breaths, and we are just tuning into that one really important issue we want to focus on. So you've got it in your mind, and it's taking up the entirety of your focus. It's a soft, gentle focus. It's the only thing in your mind. And your intuition is going to give you some guidance about this issue that will catch your blind spot, something your brain doesn't already know. This guidance could come to you in any of these ways, as a voice in your mind, as an image in your mind, as a breakthrough thought or idea, or as a feeling, an energy, emotional, or physical sensation. You could have all of those happen, or one of them, doesn't matter. So here we go. We're going to focus on that issue. And first, we're just going to focus and let you settle into that issue and see what comes. Now we're going to stay with that same issue. And I'm going to ask your intuition to show you something important you need to know about this issue from your past. What do you need to know about this issue that's from your past? Pictures, words, ideas, and feelings. Now I want to ask your intuition about this same issue we've been focusing on. What do you need to know most about this issue right now? What's most pressing for you to know today in the present moment about this issue? Words, thoughts, feelings, pictures. Now we're going to ask your intuition to show you what you need to know about this issue of focus for the long range future. We want a glimpse of the horizon here and into the distant future. What do you need to know about this issue? How will this play out in the future? What do you need to know about the future in words, pictures, thoughts, and feelings? Okay, so we can slowly start to release our intuitive focus. We'll stay here just for a second. and we can slowly begin to open our eyes. If you'd had your eyes closed, if you've had your eyes open, you can just come back to the physical environment. So a great way to ground after you've been in that liminal space with your intuition is to really ground into the earthy reality. So what do you see in your room? What are the colors? What is the taste of your water like? What are you smelling? You can stretch your body. So that was just a short little meditation that I hope showed you that you really don't need anything fancy except for a quiet mind and an openness and no stimulation to go into your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that you do with intuitive focus is the way to command intuitive focus and control it is to train your system to go into it and then go out of it. So now we're out of intuitive focus and we've completely released it. We're not thinking about that issue. If anything needs to come to you later in the day, it will. Your intuition will tell you, but we're not focusing anymore. And that's something that I do in psychic sessions, unbelievably. Strangers are on the phone with me. We're talking about their biggest issues. When the call is done, I'm done. My intuitive focus is over. I move on to other activities. And if you're wondering what to do when you get let's say you did that little meditation, or you do it again after this call and you get an intuitive hit that feels profound or is asking you to take really profound action in your life, a good rule of thumb is just to pause for a minute. Let it settle, let yourself think about it. You usually have the grace of several days or weeks before you need to take action. So the best intuitive hits and even strong gut instincts are consistent. So let yourself, research the issue, ask loved ones what they think, ask experts what they think, let it roll around in your mind and see if your intuitive hit is consistent over days and weeks before taking action. And you can also factor in what your other wise council members say about this.
Mm. I think that's a very interesting point, that it's like not to worry too much about getting everything down or acting on it right now, that trusting that it's going to circle back around and be consistent. So we don't have to
Yeah,
worry
I
about
think
it anyway.
exactly, Stephen. Sometimes I think people want to write it all down after a guided meditation, and your brain will lock on to what's most important. And whatever was your most important intuitive hits from that exercise, you'll think about it in the shower tonight. You'll think about it over your coffee tomorrow. It will just organically come back up to your mind.
Hmm. So when it organically comes, it sounded before like you want to hold it fluidly, so the intuitive hits come back around, and then you want to consult your own counsel. How do you go about doing that in terms of the different parts of your personal self as well as guidance from out of the body?
Yes, I think, again, your intuition is just one advisor. It's often the deciding factor, but what can be really great for your intuition is to get expert guidance or research and give yourself options. So let's say that you have a health issue that you're managing right now, and your doctor might say, we have 3 ways we can handle this, and they're all equally valid. We could do surgery, we could do physical therapy, or we could try some lifestyle changes. They could all work, and I don't, your doctor isn't wed to any of them. What do you want to do? That's a great time to use your intuition. And don't be afraid to get wise counsel from other people. If you get a strong intuitive hit that you should move somewhere or take a job or partner with someone, and then you ask, a loved one that you consider very wise and intuitive, and they say, I don't think you should do that, your system will react and it'll be like, oh, wait, they're wrong. I kind of needed to hear them give me the wrong answer to know that my intuition was right. So don't ever be afraid to let your intuition breathe and get other data and other research. Your intuition works best when it's informed, when it has options, it has information. So don't be afraid to even what we're going to do in the second part of our exercise is we're going to ask for a synchronicity. Synchronicities are a very powerful second opinion on your own intuition. So you might have gotten some intuitive guidance from that exercise that's internal with your 4 clairs. And then if you're thinking, gosh, I'd really love a second opinion from spirit or the universe or God or the goddess, or however you language that large benevolent force, ask for a synchronicity. That's a meaningful coincidence that happens externally. So it could be that you got the intuitive hit that, oh my gosh, I really need to start working with an accountant on my taxes. It's very pedantic, but it's like, this has gotten out of control. I can't do it on my own. In that guided meditation, I kept getting that hit. And then you go to work tomorrow and your coworker is like, you say, hi, what'd you do yesterday? And they said, oh, I took the day off to go see my accountant. It's like, what? Why is this person mentioning this to me? So what we're going to look for is synchronicities in the external world that back up our own internal and intuitive hits. And those could be, it might even be that you're at the grocery store and you overhear a random conversation and you think, oh my God, I don't know those people and I don't even know what exactly they were talking about. But one of the lines that woman said into her phone just landed so strong for me. I really needed to hear that. That was somehow guidance meant for me. Or you're watching a movie and one of the characters said something and you just cannot get that one line out of your mind. It was like, God, that's the answer to my question I've been grappling with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to connect with Archangel Raphael, who is the angel of healing. I really like to work with Archangel Raphael because I think when we can frame anything we're going through in our life as a healing journey, even if it's something really challenging, we bring a different energy to it. We bring more softness, more openness, more love, and I think we expect more grace to come to us. And somehow when we expect more grace, which is just benevolent opportunities and resources and help orchestrated by the divine, when we expect more grace to come to us, we open to it more. We recognize it more when it's there. So Archangel Raphael is fantastic because archangels, through the mystery of faith, really can work with as many people as they need to. It doesn't matter how many people are asking for Archangel Raphael's help at the same time, that archangel can meet all of those needs. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to simply put our hand over our heart, just to ground in our energetic heart. And we're going to ask Archangel Raphael, we're going to open that channel to that angel, which you have access to anytime. And we're going to say, Archangel Raphael, we want some synchronicities for everyone, every single person watching this call in the days and weeks after they watch this call. We want those synchronicities and signs to point them in a direction of their destiny. There'll be healing signs, there'll be helpful signs, and they're going to give us more information about that issue we meditated on, more information about our destiny. So thank you, Archangel Raphael, for hearing this prayer and being with us. And we will watch for those healing signs and synchronicities in the days and weeks after this call. And now we release it. And any time in the day, they will come, my friends. They will come. I promise you. So anytime over the next days and weeks, you're thinking, I love that call with Tanya. And we asked Archangel Raphael, did Archangel Raphael hear? Is it coming? I want you to just put your hand over your heart and say, thank you, Archangel Raphael. I know those signs are coming. So they will come. And that's the beauty of working with the divine. When you reach out and ask for something, there was always some kind of answer. It may not be what you expect. It may not be in the timing you expect. It could take a couple of weeks for the synchronicity to come, but it will come, and you'll know it when it happens because your whole intuitive system will tell you, this is a profound sign for me. Your energy body will change. The energy will feel lighter or heavier. That synchronistic moment or opportunity or person or words they say will keep cycling over in your mind. The moment will feel real pregnant with meaning when it happens. Time will slow down. So when this sign or signs comes to you, your intuition will tell you this is a sign.
I love everything you're saying, and you've kind of made interesting reference to working with these different wisdom voices, wisdom team, maybe a little bit about how to integrate all those different perspectives into sort of real clear movement moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward, I'm asking my intuition, Stephen, what's the best way to answer that question? And I'm going to share one of my private practices that just I do for myself. And this is something I do every week to get guidance for myself and to ask for help from my spiritual guidance squad and to get synchronicities. And the reason I like this practice is it's weekly. because I think sometimes when we have a big issue, there's something we really want, we're excited, or it's a big challenge, we feel like, do I have to pray 10 times a day? Or is there some, I got to throw salt over my shoulder? And, there's something I have to do constantly. No, that's why I like to do it every week, because it kind of grounds you in the practice. And again, you can do it with focus and release. So, what I do every Sunday, religiously, for lack of a better word, is I sit in my office and I pull oracle cards for myself. And those cards and those decks will give me information about things I could watch out for in the coming weeks, things in the coming week, the coming 7 days, things that I should look forward to that could be exciting in the coming days. But they kind of give me some guidance on the upcoming week ahead, the 7 days ahead, and how to navigate that. Then I get out my little magic journal, which can just be any journal that you have, and I write a letter to my spiritual guidance squad. And I usually address it, dear angels and spirit helpers, very, very broad. And I simply start with a couple of lines of gratitude. Thank you for this that happened this past week. Oh my gosh, you really saved me in this moment. Or I'm just so grateful that my basic needs were met. Or thank you for that miracle that happened to a friend or family member. Couple lines of gratitude. Then I go into what I need. I need help with this, this, and this. I need help with this resource or this opportunity or this person. And then I just say, thank you. I'm so grateful again. All my love, Tanya. Then I close the book and I know my prayers have been logged. I've gotten some guidance on the week ahead. And often when you say those prayers, you will start to get synchronicities. So once a week, you could grab your journal on a Saturday or Sunday or whenever you have kind of a down day and write a little journal entry to your spiritual guidance squad, your angels and spiritual helpers, and just say, here's a couple things I'm grateful for, and here's a couple issues I have. P.S. While you're helping me with these issues, can you send me some signs and synchronicities that will help me feel less confused, help point me in the right direction?
Super practical advice. I love how you really break it down to brass tacks like that. There's very specific requests. Well, Tanya, you're really a great teacher, really clear insights, and you have so much experience. I want to spend some time now talking about how people can learn further from you, which is a really unique opportunity. So Tanya's agreed to teach a brand new program for Shift. It's called the Empath's Guide to Psychic Development. Grow your intuitive gifts with confidence, compassion, and energetic protection. You can find it at the URL from sensitive2psychic.com, from sensitive2psychic.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites. It's really just if you're intuitively drawn to move further. So Tanya, I'd love for you to share in your own words some of your intentions for what people will come away from this course with, and then we'll go through the modules and give them a preview of what's coming in each.
Yeah, my intentions for the course are just as it says, to help you grow your intuitive and psychic capacity. I think many people watching this already know they're very intuitive. They're not quite sure how to use it. They're not quite sure how to ground it in a practical way, and they're not quite sure how to expand it. Also, I think some sensitive people can naturally fear overwhelm. If I expand my intuitive psychic capacity, am I just going to be getting more intuitive hits and I'm going to be more overwhelmed? Or, do I feel safe opening up this portal to the angels? Maybe I have past life issues with that, or cultural programming from when I was a child. So, what we want to do in this class is create this really powerful, safe container where all of those issues or things that might be holding you back or tripping you up, we just handle and take care of all that, so that when at the end, at the final class, you feel like you have a good handle on what your clairs are, what your dominants are. You can use them in flow. You know how to regulate your sensitive nervous system. You know how to create a boundary so you're not overwhelmed. You know how to tune in and out of others, not just be at the mercy of being an empath, but know when you want to open up and feel, when you want to witness and observe, and you want to pull back. And really, I want you to feel like you can work with psychic phenomena like angels and ancestors in a comfortable, confident way. So you can do it at the snap of a fingers and feel like, yeah, this is a really safe, loving thing for me to do.
That's great. So module 1 is called Identify Where You Currently Fall on the Intuition Spectrum to create a benchmark for growth and better understand your unique intuitive system.
Yeah. So the intuition spectrum is a term I came up with to describe, to really land with people that intuition does exist on a spectrum. So you'll know some people who just aren't naturally very intuitive, and that's nothing wrong. They have other genius points. Maybe they're great at basketball, or they're great at playing music, or, we all have our different strengths, and everyone is naturally intuitive. So you might already land on the intuition spectrum, much more intuitive than a family member, but you can both move and improve and grow your intuition no matter where you are on that spectrum right now. So we're going to get clear for you where you are now on that spectrum, knowing that you can improve greatly from there. And we're going to look at your intuitive history so that you can really get clear on the fact that you're probably way more intuitive and psychic than you think. And you've been having a lot of this happen and maybe not quite recognizing it or not having people validate it. So the first class will be really interesting. We'll get a good read on where you are now for a benchmark as we go forward.
Module 2, identify and begin to transform your two biggest internal blocks that sabotage reaching your full psychic potential.
Yeah, so intuitive people, it's very common to have intuitive blocks. It could be a block from a past life, it could be an ancestral wound, it could be a block from childhood or culture. It could simply be that you, again, are a sensitive person that is afraid of being overwhelmed by expanding into your full intuitive potential. So what we'll do in this class is we'll talk about some of the common intuitive psychic blocks that can be holding you back. We'll identify your two biggest ones right now, and then we'll get some tools to work with them so you can move beyond them and they don't hinder your psychic development.
Module 3, regulate your sensitive nervous system, prepare your body, and clear your mind for increased intuition and psychic ability.
Yeah, so this is where we are learning to regulate the sensitive nervous system, something every sensitive empathic person wants to know more about. So we're going to get some really good tools to do that. And we're going to also talk about how we prepare the physical body for increased psychic ability, working with psychic phenomenon. So we're going to regulate the nervous system, talk about how to really prepare and take good care of the physical body, and we're going to talk more about that receptive state. So how we can be more open and receptive to get hits from all of our four clairs.
Module 4, build a strong psychic shield and deepen your connection with angels and ancestors for guidance, protection, and manifestation.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun module where we talk about all different types of angels you can work with: guardian angels, helper angels, archangels. We'll also talk about ancestors. Then these are different than loved ones who've passed over. Say you have a dear departed loved one you knew well, or maybe somebody, a grandmother you didn't know too well, but someone you have a good read on. Ancestors go much farther back. So in this module, it will be fun to kind of help people tune into what are those ancestral forces, and how far do they go back, and what exactly are they helping me with. This is going to help us really create more psychic, energetic, spiritual protection for us, as well as, just as the module title says, it's going to help us learn how to kind of leverage that ancestral and angelic help to help us manifest things in our life.
Module 5, tune into guidance through clairsentience and claircognizance while cultivating a receptive state for intuitive insights.
Yeah. So this is where there's the receptive state. This is intuitive focus, receptive state. I mix those up in the modules, but this one is where we are going to talk about claircognizance and clairsentience, those two more common psychic intuitive pathways to have open. So we'll talk about what claircognizance is. That is where you're getting the great ideas and mental downloads. And then we'll talk about clairsentience. That is where you are feeling and sensing energy and emotions and physical stimuli. We're going to talk about the difference between the two and also teach you how to kind of choose which one you want to go into. So your four clairs can work in concert in unison, and you can also, if you feel like you're feeling a little too much and it's overwhelming, you can kind of shift gears and go more into claircognizance, the mental intuitive psychic pathway, almost as a shield, so you're not feeling as much. So we'll teach you how to do that. And we'll talk about that receptive open state and also talk about that intuitive focus. That's where we are learning how to command our focus. We're tuning in very mindfully, and then we're tuning out and releasing. That helps protect you so that you're not constantly feeling like you're at the mercy of your intuition and you don't know when you're going to get hits, and then you can't stop getting them when you're ready to leave that space.
Module 6, working with clairvoyance and clairaudience as tools for deep self-love and acceptance.
Yeah, this is also a fun module because we'll be talking about clairvoyance and clairaudience, those are two of the rarer psychic pathways, but many people have the capacity to open those up, particularly clairvoyance. So we'll really play with opening up your clairvoyant psychic pathway so you can get more of those great mental images in your mind as guidance. And we'll talk about clairaudience and some of the baggage that goes along with clairaudience, what clairaudience is and isn't, and how you can feel comfortable embracing this if this is part of your intuitive psychic makeup. If clairaudience isn't something that's open for you right now, I'll teach you how to tune into words that you hear externally from other people or in podcasts or movies and recognize that as intuitive guidance. This is also a module where we're going to talk a lot about self-love and self-acceptance, because part of getting the most out of your intuitive system is accepting your own unique intuitive makeup. There might be times where you wish you had a different psychic pathway open, or times where you have one open and you're thinking, I don't even want this, it's too much. So this is that module where we're going to really encourage the self-love and self-acceptance, which is the best way to get the most out of your intuition and let it all settle and land so that it's manageable.
And finally, Module 7, build confidence in the four clairs so you can use your intuitive gifts comfortably and compassionately.
Yeah, this module, I'm going to give you a peek behind the scenes at the life of a real life psychic, me, and let you know what it feels like to be working with your four clairs really comfortably, confidently, in flow all the time, and also how it feels to work with psychic phenomenon in a way that you're not intimidated or nervous or overwhelmed to do that. So this will be a fun class, and this will also be a class where we can really kind of see where we've come in this journey and how far you've come and how more comfortable and confident you feel about your intuitive abilities. And you might very well have had a sensitivity growth spurt happen during the course.
Well, Tanya, you're clearly a great teacher and so clear and really skilled in bringing this across. So I know this is going to be a very practical and powerful accelerated growth spurt for everybody. So again, it's all at FromSensitiveToPsychic.com. So that was the seven 90-minute live modules. In addition, you're going to get access to all the videos and audios, which are great to go back and learn from and study again. There's word-for-word transcripts. There's a weekly practices for home. There's a community to support you and deepen your experience, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. And Tanya's also been very generous on the bonus side of things. There's a full ebook called Awakening Intuition Oracle Deck Guidebook that you referenced earlier. Tanya, anything more you want to say about the ebook?
Yeah, there's two ebooks. If you do the fast acting, you get my first angel book, Angel Insights, in its entirety, and you also get two large excerpts from my books, Angel Intuition and Are You an Earth Angel? It's over 300 pages of how to work with angels, so that's a lot. And then also that oracle deck that I told you about, Awakening Intuition, you're going to get an ebook of the guidebook, and that will happen whenever you sign up for the course. And that's really powerful because if you're someone that loves divination decks, the guidebook is where it goes so deep into all those gritty details and all the grounding practices. So you're going to get the entire Awakening Intuition guidebook.
Mm. Yeah, and as Tanya mentioned, so the fast action is when you decide to move forward right away by midnight tonight Pacific time, and that's our little extra big actually incentive to make a decision now and use your intuition as your guide to move forward. And if you do move forward today, you're going to get that whole PDF collection with Tanya for all about working with angels. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible, especially given the practical value you'll get from it. It's three payments of $128, or you save 10% when you pay in full with one payment of $349. The course is going to start September 30th and run Tuesdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern. But even if you can't make the live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings, the transcripts, and the community as well. There's some beautiful testimonials on the page about Tanya as both as a teacher and gifted intuitive. So you're in really good hands, and I think you're going to get just a lot of deep transformational benefit if you choose to move forward. So again, it's all from sensitive2psychic.com, and you get that special packet of PDFs on all about working with angels when you sign up by midnight tonight.
And you'll also get some great guided meditations. You're going to get a guided meditation to open clairvoyance if you sign up for the course, and a guided meditation to meet a spirit guide. And I decided that while we're doing the course, I'm going to give you another guided meditation to meet your teams of ancestors. So sorry, Stephen, I just wanted to throw
Oh,
it
it's
all out
great.
there.
Add it in
I'm
there.
so excited.
Well, you've got a lot of great value in this program, Tanya, and clearly you're a delightful teacher and also just super knowledgeable. So thank you, Tanya, for your time today, and thank you all for joining. And we look forward to seeing many of you in Tanya's upcoming course. And again, all the detail is at fromsensitive2psychic.com, and the program is The Empath's Guide to Psychic Development. Grow your intuitive gifts with confidence, compassion, and energetic protection. So thank you so much. Many
Thank
blessings.
you.